My name is Haley Batesol. I am from Sandusky, Ohio. I have 5.5 years in recovery from addiction, codependency, and today I am a woman of God. I am a mother. I am a faithful member of my church. I am the director of trauma to testimony through VTC Legacy Ministries. I am just better than I was yesterday.
Well, that is fantastic. I'm so glad that you were able to take time out of your very full life to join us. So if you could start off by sharing a bit about your childhood.
So my childhood, I grew up in Clyde, Ohio with my mother and my stepfather. My father killed himself when I was 6, and I grew up in an addictive home. There was a lot of verbal and mental, emotional abuse. My mother was an addict. My stepfather was alcoholic, so there was a lot of fighting and stuff. Police were always at our house, and I have 3 sisters and a brother from my mom, and I have another sister from my father. We were in a really bad house fire when I was a child. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks, and our whole home got redone, and then my mother got really bad on pills and lost the house. So then we lived in and out of like hotels and friends of families, and it's kind of funny that we are talking about this now, because I was trying to make an example to my daughters. They asked what we went through in the hotels and stuff, and I'm talking bologna with cheese rolls and Nutri-Grain bars, because they're always like, why every time we see Nutri-Grain bars, Mom, do you gag? And I'm like, because I ate them for so long when I was a kid, and I was very promiscuous. That's basically sums that up. I was promiscuous. I did drugs. I started using at a very young age. I was smoking crack by 16, drinking at 13, was first miscarriage at almost 16, and was with a really abusive, ended up being with a really abusive guy who was my saving grace, at the time. And we basically just tried to destroy each other's lives for the next 13 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's kind of what that happened. And, that's it. That's, I did I did my best, I guess. I drank and stuff, but I was still went to work, or I would switch jobs a lot. I was barely hanging on. I was codependent, depending on men and stuff, or not even depending on men. They really were just using me, right? So it wasn't even a dependency thing. It was more or less a validation thing, trying to find love in just whoever and settling for whatever. So I think that after I had my 3rd daughter, the baby, I went through a really traumatic experience with her, and for her privacy, I have shared it in the past, but I'm not going to, because she is a teenager now, and it's really it affects her sometimes. So through her privacy, just after I had her, I went through such a traumatic thing conceiving her that I just went off the deep end. It was really bad. That's when I was addicted to meth. I was introduced to methamphetamines, and from 2009 to 2017, that was my drug of choice, and it just made me feel powerful. It made me feel powerful. It made me feel like I could do anything in this world, but in the same time, I was throwing it all away, and I just drank all the time. I used all the time. I was at the bars all the time. It just, just the lifestyle. It coincides with one another. Men, drugs, alcohol, there's all of it. Losing apartments. I was moving away. I moved away a couple times. So, and it just, the last year of my addiction, my kids went to 4 different schools. I got on the needle, and it just was really bad. It's just part of that life, though. I 21 driving under suspensions. I obtained through that, and disorderlies and DUIs, and it just, I think it's all of it that just comes and correlates with the addiction in itself.
Right.
And my kids, unfortunately, were right along. They were right along with me. They rode the ride, the whole ride.
Yeah.
And I thought that they didn't know, because I think that's what we think, or in it, is that they have no idea, but especially my older 2, they've seen it, So
The
moving
good stuff.
forward, the good
Yeah.
stuff. So my daughter said, we were homeless, and I told her, I'm sorry. We were in Tiffin, and she said, well, you keep saying sorry, Mommy, but you're not changing nothing. And it was like a brick in the face. And I was like, that was in like June, July, and I was like, I had met this family in April when I had came back from Mississippi before I got my girls, and they had offered to keep my kids, and I immediately were like, you're crazy, no way, who takes kids, who just does that and don't want nothing in return, and I feel like there's so much good out of them taking them. There's a lot of, there is some bad, but the best part is I'm clean and sober today, and I found Jesus through it, and with them doing that, well, I obviously blocked them and was like, you're crazy. Well, then I relapsed, and my daughters told everybody, and then we were homeless, and my daughter said that to me, and
How young was your daughter at that time?
7.
Wow. Calling it out.
10 and they were 11, 10, and 7.
Wow.
And I knew it was a God thing. I didn't really know God yet. I just knew it was the right thing to do. So I signed him over. I went to rehab.
Could you describe a bit of what that was like? What you did?
I went through a pretty bad psychosis when I was there. So a mental psychosis. Like, I thought everybody was after me. I thought, that all the girls were conspiracizing against me. There's a little girl named KK, we called her. She's one of them that helped change me. We was talking one night, and she was like, hey, the kids call me hey, so people call me hey, and they're like, she's like, hey, you're like unapproachable, like we can't even talk to you. You always shutting, you always a fast talker, talking, shutting us up before we got anything to say, and that was like a aha moment for me. I was like, I don't want to be her no more. So when I got there, I started making changes, and the Focus Residential, I can't even say any words about them. They just genuinely love you, and it wasn't no sober living. Like, it was 2 10-minute phone calls a week. You was in class 6 days a week, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You broke for lunch, so it was pretty intense. And I went to church there, and the owner's dad ran a church, but when I first got there, this is what changed my life. Somebody gave me a Celebrate Recovery study Bible. And they were like, study this. You study this, it's going to change your life. And I just opened up the first page and went at it. I just started studying and just believing that God can transform me and that I can do this. And I just started speaking positive things. It was in me the whole time. Like, this positive, encouraging woman was in me. And I didn't know. Like, I didn't know her. I didn't, it was brand new to me. I just knew that I was just going to keep on smiling. And I just chased it. I didn't care what it was. I would go to CAAANAHA. I didn't care what A. If it meant me being a better person, I was doing it. I did anger management classes, IOP classes, 2 anger management classes, 2 parenting classes, got my Ohio State certified peer supporter. See, I just did whatever somebody said, here, do this. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's part of like what I did in my recovery. For my kids, that's a whole nother story.
Yep.
They granted the people full custody, parental custody, and
did they notify you at any point in time, or?
Not that I can remember. I'm not sure, because I was still like very fogged in January.
Yeah.
It happened January 2018, and I think I agreed to it's temporary. That's what I agreed to.
Yeah.
I agreed that it was a temporary thing.
Yeah.
And that it was definitely not a temporary thing. And I spent the next 2.5 years fighting tooth and nail for my children and doing everything. And everything that I did still was not good enough.
So what are the types of things that you were asked to do that you...
I wasn't asked to do anything. I just did it.
Okay.
I wasn't involved. I went to Children's Services. They alienated my kids from the entire family. And every time all this stuff was happening, I was going to Children's Services like, why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you listening to me? These people are not letting me see my kids. They're not bringing them to visits. Backing up. So I had a warrant. They told me, because I told them, you will never be the mother. You're never going to be the father. I am the mother. I'm coming for my kids. You cannot have them. Why aren't my kids on my visit? That was the wrong thing to say. Because at first, the first 6 months, they were working with me, and we were doing visits at wherever, the park, Subway, McDonald's, wherever. And they were doing it up until that day when my daughter did not come to a visit. And I said, why are you doing, like, stop playing with me? You know, these
Right.
are my children. I deserve to see them. I'm doing the right thing. And that was too direct. I don't know. And we ended up doing what's called the kinship. We did visits at the kinship, which is like where they write everything down, every single visit. You know, they monitor the entire visit, video, camera, whatever. I was seeing them every week for 2 hours. Every single visit, they would come. They're like, they're doing this, they're doing that. I mean, I didn't entertain that. I was like, it's okay. They're like, Mom, when can we come home? Why can't we come home yet? We love you. Why can't, you know? It was heartbreaking, so heartbreaking. And all I would tell them is, as soon as God says it's time, as soon as God, it's just be strong. You got to be strong right now. God's going to, as soon as God says you're coming home, Isaiah 60:22, when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. And I would tell them that over and over and over and over. So I'm patient because I'm letting God do it. You know, I'm like, okay, you know, well, on my birthday, the world shut down. They were over at my house for a visit for my birthday. And the person called and was like, well, I got my other kids coming in from out of town, so everybody's got to quarantine for 14 days. I don't want you to miss your visit next week, so can the kids stay for 14 days? I was like, absolutely.
Oh,
God did that. God did that.
Yes.
God did that. So my kids stayed for 14 days. She's like, well, I'll bring over. I don't need nothing. I get everything they need right here in this house. And they stayed. That was our first 14 days together. And then I was off work until May. They opened the world back up, and I went back to work on May 4th. So then we switched roles. So the girls would come. I was homeschooling them.
Yeah, 'cause
They were
schools
coming during the
closed, yeah.
day. They were staying at her house at night and staying at my house on Friday. On May 4th, when I went back to work, we switched roles. They started staying at my house 6 days a week, stay with her one day on Friday, and then I'll go to work. She watch them, literally, she watch them, pick them up. She did all the things. She was like, but at the whole time, we was like, under this, I had to do everything the perfect way.
Yes.
I had to, it made me literally, I developed a perfectionist. I was so afraid. I was so afraid. If I mess up one thing, they're going to take them from me. She's going to take, because she did. It was a fear.
Right.
You did take them from me before, and I was not willing to do that. So I did whatever, however, whenever, the way she wanted it, and I didn't miss a beat.
So what date were
November,
they move?
November 20, they moved. They were home in May of 2020, but I did not get full custody until November 22nd of 2021. And I walked in there that day. I was settling. God knew it wasn't in my heart, though. God, because he said he'll give us our heart's desire, and he knew my heart's desire was to have full custody of my kids again and to have them home permanently, where I call the shots, because I'm mom. But I was about to settle, and I walked in there to sign over shared parenting, because that's what they said. Well, that's what they were willing to do. They weren't willing to give them back, right? They were willing to sign over shared parenting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when I walked in there, God changed their heart, and they said, Your Honor, we came in here today to do shared parenting, but we would like to just give the girls back to Haley. We've been watching her, this is what they said, we've been watching her very closely for the last year and a half, and she's doing all the right things, and we would like to just give them back to her.
How did you maintain you have this sense of joy and, peace that very much, kind of resonates around you. How did you maintain your recovery and your spiritual connection and that sense of peace through? Because that's
this is how I
one.
did it. So I disconnected myself from the situation, and I just focused on God. That's it. When I didn't understand, I went into prayer. If I didn't, it didn't make sense, I went into prayer. If I was upset about it, I went into prayer. If I went, it just, everything, I prayed. I stayed in the Word. So through all of this, I haven't talked about trauma yet. So I went to my pastor and his wife and was like, God, speaking to me about this, just trauma to testimony. Like, I just keep hearing it over and over and over, And so they believed in me. I was like, I want to work with the women. I got it all the juice. right?
Got
I
a
got
lot
the
of
juice.
experience.
I got the
Good.
juice.
Yes.
So I just want to love them, believe in them, watch them be set free. Like, I'm going to give them everything that I know. I'm going to lay it sometimes to a fault because I just love hard. I love unconditionally. And I believe in people sometimes to like more than they do themselves, you know, but that's what somebody did for me.
Yes. So one final question. What are some words that speak to you? And I think I maybe have an idea of this, but I'll ask it again. What are some words that speak to you when you're struggling that you could share with our folks?
Everybody needs a person.
Yes.
Find a person. Get into a home church. Find a meeting. Do something. Nothing changes unless we change it. That is my biggest. Nobody can discipline you except for you. And nothing changes unless you change it. Get into a church. How do you find a home church? That's what they say. Well, how do I find a home church? Where you go where you're being fed. If you walk in bound up and you leave bound up, that is not your home church. I am 5 years in with my church, and I can walk in every single Wednesday, every single Sunday, feeling like I'm ready to do this. That's your home church. Go where you're being fed. Move forward. Let go. Be free.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
I really, really appreciate it.